before going into a bit more information about myself, I want to do something a little bit different and just tell you all exactly what's going through my head right now. And that's run for the door, panic, there's a lot of people here watching me. But the reason why I'm telling you this is because I look at these thoughts now from a point of view outside myself to think that it's not the worst case scenario, because I'm still here. I'm confronting this fear no matter how bad it is, because I have a reason to be here to tell you all why I do my writing. And my writing is it's my outburst, it's how I process everything that happens in life day to day. It's how I process some difficult things that I experienced as I grew up. So I grew up with 3 brothers, and they were a chore. They are the most supportive brothers that I've had in recent years, because they now understand my mental health. They understand that when I was struggling with depression and anxiety, they didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to do. My dad didn't know what to do. My mum, however, when she was around, was everything to me. She was the one who would listen to me. I'd come home from school because I was bullied, and I'd cry, and she would be there to just listen, and that was what I needed. And she was a lover of books, so she would distract me by giving me a new book to read, and I would read it and I would get to escape everything that was happening. She passed away in January 2014. She had leukemia. And when I say, it goes without saying, it was probably the worst experience of my life. I was 18, 2 weeks before my 18th birthday. We were told by the doctor that she'd missed 1 Christmas but had 50 more. And she was diagnosed a month before, so she was gone within a month. Throughout that whole time, I was working on this novel. It's a science fiction novel, and it's about grief, it's about depression, but it's mainly about how far you would go to save someone that you love when you know that you can't. And I wrote this while my mum was undergoing chemo. I didn't finish it until after she passed away. But my last words to her, it was, "I'll finish the book for you, Mum." And she smiled. And at that point, it was very heartfelt because she was very unresponsive. But the nurse said to me she understood that. But what I didn't realise at the time was that promise was going to cause a lot of problems going forwards, because it was holding me back. I was punishing myself for not finishing the book straight away, and I felt really, the depression just got to the point where I made an attempt on my life. And even talking about it now, it's much easier than it was back then because I didn't talk about it. So, and as I mentioned about the importance of reaching out for help, I tried to pretend everything was okay. I still went to work with a smile on my face, and everyone thought, Sean, he's happy, he's nothing wrong. But the truth was, they would say these things, and I'd sit there going, why am I pretending to be really happy? Why am I pretending that everything's okay when it's not? So I went on a holiday with my family, and that was when I'd made that decision. But when we got back, I would take my own life. We all came back from the holiday, and my family planned a meal, but I said to them that I wasn't feeling well, so they would go to it. That was when I tried, and obviously I'm still here today. At the time, I realised this was the furthest I'd ever gone. I didn't know what to do, so I went to the hospital, and I was on a mental health ward for a month, and that was when this book was published, and it gave me something to work towards. It gave me something to hold on to, that promise that I gave to my mum. But when I finished it, I realised something, that the writing was what kept me going throughout the whole experience, because if I didn't understand what I was feeling, I would write it down. And I was led to believe that emotions were bad, that you shouldn't show them, that you should be just resolved. That's just how I grew up. But I realised over time that there was nothing wrong with showing emotions. I cry watching Star Trek every episode for some reason. And it's just because I'm now open to my feelings. I'm open to just, you know what, I feel this way. I'm going to accept that. I'm going to acknowledge that because I'm a human being. And that was what kickstarted my whole writing journey, with writing comedy and how to survive retail, because again, working every day in retail, I'm sure many of you have experienced what it's like, and it's stressful, but it's a lot of stories to tell. And I would sit there on my breaks writing this, and my colleagues would ask me, what are you writing? I'll tell them nothing, don't worry about it, didn't want them to know about it just then. And I self-published it on Amazon. And again, halfway through this book, I suffered a mental breakdown. I completely let everything get on top of me. I couldn't cope anymore. I documented it in the book. And I look back on it from a point of view a few months later, and in words, you can convey the emotions that you don't necessarily understand, but you can put it out there because other people might be able to interpret it. But when it's your own writing, it does something to you, because it's like looking at your past self but recognising the growth that you made in that time. And that is why I kept writing. And then a year ago, my niece was born, Olive. And I created this story for her because I took one look at her face and it just reminded me that there is beauty in life, that there are small things that just mean everything. And I just thought to myself, if I'd gone through with my suicide, I wouldn't have been there to meet her. I wouldn't have been there to finish these books. And now that's why I keep writing, because I get to convey these stories as they happen. I get to express how I feel about certain things, but I also get to showcase the best and the worst of humanity and put it in words that just make a difference. And that's my journey, and it took me a long time to realise the power of creative writing, because it was an outlet that I needed that I didn't know I had at the time. And it wasn't until years later after therapy that I could look back at it, when even my therapist said to me, read to me the chapter that you wrote. And I read the chapter, and it was about my character in front of his mum's death. And he said to me, the significance of that chapter, and I realised in that moment that I let her go. And that was last year. She passed away 10 years ago. But I only let her go last year because I processed that grief through the words, and it just helped me feel comfortable with myself to be, yeah, I'm going to cry over the next episode of Star Trek, I'm going to cry watching Doctor Who or things like that, but I'm not afraid to admit it anymore. And that is who I am.
Only because I've got to dive downstairs and I'll be coming back up. When I go to the gym, I see this young man. Don't know his name, didn't know anything. Comes in, he does his thing, I do my thing, and then you go about your business. And then 2 weeks ago, was at the library and they had a book literature festival or whatever it was, and in walked Sean. Didn't know his name. And I thought, I'm going to go over and say hello, see what he's up to. And we got chatting, and I'm like, what an amazing young man. We see people, and we don't talk. Why don't we talk? Josh, what did I say to you today? Josh, this young man, what did I say to you today?
Talking to other people will open another door.
Can open a door.
Open a door and give opportunities to better future, be in a better position in life.
Because at the moment the door's shut, right? The door's shut. But by introducing yourself to somebody, you just don't know where that might lead. We had a conversation, and then the next minute I see him on Instagram. Guess what? Brilliant day. But I've now been asked to speak at an event, International Men's Day, 23rd of November, and I'm so excited but scared, and I don't know why. I've never done this is your first speaking?
Yeah.
Give him a massive clap. You would never know.
No.
Thank you.
No.
You would never know. And I know sort of like for that to happen, you've got to have the right environment.
Yeah.
And we try to create a right environment, and you could still be talking, I know that.
Not for hours, probably.
But no, it's all good. So I just want to say thank you so much. So guys, please ask this young man questions. I've got to go downstairs, sort something out, and then yeah.
Hi.
Okay.
Just what's on my mind, right? You mentioned that you were bullied at school and stuff like that. Obviously now you're a successful author, you're going to become a public speaker, you're going to do all these wonderful things. Have you blocked your bullies on social media?
I don't think I've ever added them on social media.
Yeah, but they could be nosy. If you know they're bully, just make sure they're watching and they can sit there in their small little lives and say, oh, that's the person who wanted to.
And the thing is, I wouldn't even hold a grudge.
Oh, no,
because everything they, as strange as it sounds, everything they did, all the horrible things they've said to me, I've even been punched and kicked and everything, but it's made me who I am today. Would I go through all of that again to be here? I probably would, because it's made me, I'm more aware of everyone around me, that everyone has different personalities, everyone's from different cultures, different backgrounds, but we're all one race. And it's just...
Now I'm just coming from a little bit pettiness, it's like I think that's what the sex was sometimes, isn't it? Well done, thank you.
Any other questions? Yeah.
Can you share with the group, you mentioned that you self-published?
Yes.
Kindle Direct Publishing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Can you kind of explain to the room that that's possible?
It is.
You have lots of money.
Yeah, it is definitely possible. The only thing is you don't make a lot of money from it. But when you say you're a writer, people assume, oh, you're rich. But no, that's not how it works. It takes a long time, if that. But with Kindle Direct Publishing, it's a way that you are in control the whole time. You know what the book's going to look like, you know what the content is going to be, and you get to remain that creative control. And I think when you get to see that final book published, and it's printed, and it turns up on your doorstep, it just makes all the difference in the world, because you sit thinking, oh my god, that's the book. That's what I did. That's got my
You know that. You know that feeling. We know that feeling.
It is awesome.
Yes, it is. It is. When it comes through the door and it's there, it's kind of like.
And then you turn the page and see a typo and you think, ah.
No, I don't. You know what? I don't even know if there was any typos, but because we've done 2 books, 2 collaborations. They're in that bag, I think. Yeah, and we got one sent directly to each of us, and then we did an order, individual orders as well. So when Amazon came and I got this box, I'm just like, oh my god.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't even know if there's typos because you're just reading it through rose-tinted glasses. Yeah, it's.
But the other thing as well, because it's a collaboration, you're not really looking for it. You're just so excited because you've met all these people. You're like, what are they talking about? Oh my god!
Yeah.
Oh my god! This person's an author. I'm in a book with an author. So you're not really looking for spelling mistakes. Whereas if I were to read one by some well-acclaimed person, I was thinking, what if they made a mistake? You know. So, but yeah, that's good.
I'm late coming in because obviously I was downstairs. Have you got a day job?
I work in recruitment for Lidl.
Right. Okay.
So yeah, as soon as I go home,
For Lidl?
right, yeah.
Okay.
I worked there for 10 years, hence the
Hence the.
lot of years of experience with the wild
Okay.
monkey.
And is the aim then to be an author only and not do the day job?
Originally, but I think with every year that goes by, I just learn more about myself. So while I say that I don't have a definite plan for the future, I do know that creative writing will play a big part in it.
Yeah.
Because, as I say, the plan is to continue writing books that will convey the best and the worst of humanity, because this is how we evolve, it's how we learn, and it gives a voice as well for the characters.
Exactly. Wonderful. Thank you.
Hello everyone. My name is Clive, and I'm going to share some ideas about entrepreneurship. When I was preparing these slides, I thought maybe these ideas wouldn't go down quite so well, but actually it fits in quite well with the sort of things that we've been discussing this afternoon, so I feel a bit more comfortable about talking about it. So I'm going to be talking about something I call compassionate entrepreneurship. might be helpful for some of us who are interested in an entrepreneurial journey. So who am I? I'm a lecturer in project management at the University in London. I'm also interested in sustainability and equity, and thinking about how some of the teaching that I do in project management could be applied to sustainable and equitable projects. And I'm interested in entrepreneurship. I think entrepreneurship is really important, and I suspect it's going to become even more important in the years ahead. I think AI is already shaking up the world, shaking up the corporate world, and I think it's going to shake it up a lot more in the years ahead. And so I think we may well find ourselves in a position where the entrepreneurial route is pretty much the only route that's available to us as more and more jobs are automated away. So I'm sort of interested in looking at that. As this slide says, traditional entrepreneurship is quite macho, really, in its nature. And I'm not a very macho person, so it doesn't necessarily fit quite well with me. So compassionate entrepreneurship is more the kind of entrepreneurship that sort of appeals to me personally, and perhaps appeals to some others as well. So I'm going to use this sort of framework to sort of think about this idea. So who this will be targeting would be local entrepreneurs and potential entrepreneurs. This kind of support framework. And what it offers is guidelines for helping us to create ventures that are equitable and sustainable in nature, because I think that's really important going forward as well. We've made a poor job of the work that we've done so far with the planet. We've kind of made the planet pretty problematic. We've not done very well in terms of the way in which we interact with each other, particularly in commercial settings. So I think there is a room for a reset, and this may offer some guidelines as to how we might do this. Then the second one is donut economics. So this is a lady called Kate Rayworth coined this term, because what she argues is that really we should be living within a donut, and the inner layer, the inner circle of the donut represents the level of support that we should all have available to us across the globe. We should all have a minimum amount in terms of enough food to eat, enough a place to live, a supportive environment, and then the outer circle of the donut is the planetary boundaries. We should be living within planetary boundaries. The third idea is effectuation, and this is an approach to entrepreneurship developed by a former entrepreneur, now turned academic. And she argues that we really want a fairly iterative, partnership-driven approach to entrepreneurship, where we start with the resources that we have. We work with the resources that we have, and we build out in a series of iterations, building on those resources, collaborating with partners, and gradually developing our venture. And then we have some other ideas as well to help us along the way. So extreme versioning is about having different price points within our offerings, so that we have some perhaps offerings which are more about targeting those that for whom cost is critical, but other versions are more about generating income. So what next? This is the sort of initial idea. I want to sort of develop it, with a few more iterations of the framework itself, and then maybe offer some support service to local entrepreneurs to maybe help them on their journey using these kinds of ideas. Perhaps later on some kind of online platforms. The initial target audience will be micro-entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs that are not necessarily looking to grow massively, but I would also like to work with entrepreneurs that are very much growth-oriented, because often they will make a big difference. If their venture works, they'll make a big difference to the local economy. If this is something that's of interest, then there are some contact details here. Please do get in touch if this resonates at all with you or would like to be involved, because I certainly like to work with you. Any questions on anything else?
You mentioned the importance of AI. I'm just listening to what you said there. Of course, I understand that it's important, but how do you think it's going to either add or detract from being compassionate on business?
I think AI can be helpful no matter what kind of perspective one has. So I think we can use AI to create businesses which are very cutthroat in nature. We can use AI to create businesses which are very distributive and regenerative and supportive in nature. One of the AI experts who's been talking about this, who used to work at, had a prominent role in Google, he argues that one way of thinking about AI is as our children that we are creating, that we're nurturing. These children are going to become, very shortly, are going to become very powerful, very capable, very mature, and they're going to take over the world, but they will probably retain some of the philosophy, some of those sort of guiding principles that we instill in them at the outset. So he argues that we want to be careful about how we interact with AI, so that we end up with an AI that's good to us when it becomes. There's an argument, for example, that says that in the not too distant future, we will have AI that is more intelligent than us. There's this concept called singularity. And there are different people, there are different views about when we're going to arrive at singularity. Some say it's never going to happen. Others say it's only a few years away. And the scary thing is, the closer you are to the technology, the sooner you think it's going to happen. But the more you think you're going to be able to control it. Whether that's the case or not, that tends to be the thinking. Anyway, there is this view that at some point AI is going to become more intelligent than we are, and it will ultimately take over.
Skynet.
So,
Skynet. Tell it here.
Oh, So there are some who say, so therefore we need to be careful about the kind of AI that we are developing. We want to make it more like this, rather than more like the kind of cutthroat AI that we might have.
Why are you teaching compassionate entrepreneurship? Because one social worker said to me that entrepreneurs have the same drive as a psychopath.
Yes, there is an argument. There is an argument that not just entrepreneurs, but that senior managements within organisations often have that same kind of drive. And so there is a view that in order to succeed, you have to be cutthroat. You have to be cutthroat. And there are many entrepreneurs that have that kind of perspective. But I think there are others who have a much more compassionate much more compassionate approach, you know. And I would argue that that's actually more helpful, and it's particularly more helpful as we move into this new AI-dominated space, yeah. Because we don't really know what the post-AI world is going to look like. We can't be sure. But if some of these predictions are true, then maybe we want to be instilling in AI some of these more positive attributes, rather than a cutthroat AI that will eliminate us just as quickly and as thoughtlessly as some of these cutthroat entrepreneurs eliminate their competition and those who weaken them. Does that make sense? Yeah. So I think it makes sense, if that's the world that we're moving to actually have this kind of perspective.
So kind of following on from what the gentleman then said, so do you think then that if you have this compassionate entrepreneurship, you're actually then going to get more people involved? Because some people are not going to do it because they're not cutthroat. They're most probably not going to go into that world because actually they think they need to be a certain way. But if you've then got this compassionate side of it, you may then get more people coming in who would like to learn and do entrepreneurship that way as opposed to the cutthroat way.
I think that's quite possible. But the other thing that I think we're going to see is that automation is actually going to eliminate many, many jobs. Yeah. And
is that going to be in my years, or is that going to be in my children's years? I need a bit of a heads up here, do you know? Oh, am I still? Well, I'm going to be retiring soon, aren't I? So, yeah.
I think one could argue that I'm going to be okay. Right? Okay. One could argue.
Are you talking about yourself?
I'm talking about myself.
That's it, Clive.
I think that one could argue that I'm going to be okay. I think it's definitely going to affect my daughters.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you're between my age and my daughter's age, it's probably going to have some impact on you. Yeah. Because the thing is, it's happening already.
Yeah.
AI is already automating jobs.
Yeah.
And the rate of that is only going to increase. So I think what's going to happen is that we're going to have this wave of job losses, and we're going to be left with the opportunity to either go into business for ourselves or do nothing. Yeah. Now we can hope that things like universal basic income or universal basic services comes into play, so that we'll all have some money, even if we're not working. But that will be reliant on those decision makers and those powerful entrepreneurs saying, yes, we'll give them a little bit, you know, to keep them happy, you know. But if that doesn't turn out to be the case, then there are some other scenarios which are quite challenging, you know. And we're not quite sure which way it's going to pan out, you know. So I think entrepreneurship is going to be really important going forward, but entrepreneurship that's AI supported. There's no point in us as entrepreneurs creating this little venture that is not competitive with others because we're not using the technology whereas others are. Yeah, we've got to be using the most advanced technology that we can get our hands on in order to be able to compete effectively in the things that we do. That's how I see it. I've run out of time.